Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on our very first webinar here at Pool Magazine. And we're going to be providing you some useful information that you can take back to the office or use out in the field. And the aim of our webinar series is really to provide you guys access to some of the industry's leading speakers and thought leaders. And hopefully, by the end of the session, we'll be able to answer some of the questions that you have. This is going to be like a town hall style atmosphere. So if you have any questions, you can use the QA feature there, or you can direct chat with either Elise Everton, who's one of the attendees, or with Marianne Trusty. And you can ask them any questions that you may have. Just would like it if some of you guys can reserve your questions until after the main track of the session. But yeah, the goal of this webinar is really to provide you guys with education from the comfort of your home or office. Next slide, please. So today, our topic of discussion is going to be getting the most from your field management software. And co-hosting with us today, we have Zuper. Zuper is a field management software being used across the pool and spa industry. It's pretty popular. And we're going to be discussing how you can empower your field teams, delight your customers. And the reason we're all here is to ultimately, we want to grow our businesses. So we have a lot of great content for you guys today. Next slide, please. And with us today, we have Nick Schmidt. He's the VP of Strategic Accounts for Zuper. We also have Micah Wood. He's head of IT for Gold Medal Pools. And myself, Joe Trusty, editor of Pool Magazine. And we're going to be discussing how you can leverage Zuper to do a lot of things, but mostly to improve your business, streamline your business operations, and ultimately be more profitable. So next slide. And some brief little housekeeping rules before we get started. If you have any technical issues, you can direct chat with Marianne Trusty, and you can talk with our team during the webinar, or you can just shoot us an email at info@poolmagazine if you have any trouble. If you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A chat feature, and we're going to try our best to interject your questions, but we're going to reserve a lot of that stuff until the last part of the segment. And also, we have a brief survey. If you'd like to fill that out, it's a way to get entered into our door prize. All right, so we're going to do a little raffle and do a little giveaway at the end of this webinar. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Micah, who is going to be discussing our presentation, and he's going to talk about the big three value drivers.
Hey everyone, can you hear me all right?
Yep, can hear you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So my name is Micah Wood. As was mentioned, I'm heading up IT here at Gold Medal Pools. We have been through a Zuper implementation over the last year, as well as some other enterprise system implementations. And really, I'm here to give the voice of the customer. And in this case, I really want to talk about three personas or value drivers. One is the back office, so the folks who are helping the logistics of the organization run. The other is the technician, the folks on the ground actually doing the work. And then the third persona or view perspective is that of the customer. So we'll kind of cover each of these one by one. We'll talk about the why, and we'll get a demo of some of the Zuper components that address that why. And then we'll talk about real world impacts that we've seen at Gold Medal Pools. Next slide, please. So first one we'll touch on is back office. The big value driver here is automation. There's a quote I like to use fairly regularly when going through large system implementations, and that's what got you here won't get you there. Nothing is inherently wrong with any process that was done in the past. It got you to where you are today. But oftentimes things reach scale breaking points, and it won't continue to work for you in the future. So you have to switch or pivot some aspect of your enterprise architecture, some aspect of your business headcount, some aspect of your business processes, whatever it may be. What got you here won't get you there. So I call out a few things that we were considering a gold medal around why things were going to start breaking as we scaled our business. All right, our fleets were getting bigger, so we needed some smarter routing to be introduced. We were having raw technician turnover increases simply because you have the same percentage of technician churn on a larger number of technicians as your business grows is more raw turnover. And so we needed to simplify the onboarding and training experience for our users, or sorry, excuse me, for our technicians, so that we didn't eat up more and more of our SG&A as our business grew with addressing just a natural scale issue with technician churn. Similarly, our invoicing volumes grow, right? What you could have historically, we could have gone and just manually invoiced customers, but at a certain point, that starts breaking down. You have too many for the back office to handle. So we needed a better solution for automating that process. We're also handling more parts and chemicals, right? Monitoring inventory shrinkage becomes a bigger issue. You can get by with an Excel spreadsheet for a while, but eventually you need some sort of inventory tracking system to help facilitate that minimization of shrinkage. And then lastly, one of the issues that we were, or business processes that we were thinking about when going through our FSM journey was our call center volumes, right? Increase pool counts, increase hotter temperature days, or colder actually in this winter. We're getting a lot of freeze calls. But we needed a more integrated communications platform than we had in the past of taking emails and or limited call infrastructure that didn't integrate with either our CRM or our FSM. So all of those things together, right? We're creating excess headcount, higher vehicle insurance costs, which in some states is actually a pretty big issue these days. Unnecessary inventory write-offs. We're getting influx of customer complaints, things that really have a significant impact to your bottom line. So our opportunity was to rethink our technology architecture that included not only a new FSM with Zuper, but a new CRM system with HubSpot, integrate with our existing ERP system, which was NetSuite, and then roll out a global analytics layer that could synchronize across all of the systems above to give us a better way to drive our business from a data-driven perspective. So with that, I'll pass off to Nick here to give a demo on some of the functionality from this value driver of the back office automation.
Hey everyone, Nick here with Zuper. So what I wanted to do is connect you to some of that value with some product images here. But before we jump into the actual product, just wanted to highlight a couple of these key areas. And again, we're thinking from that persona of the back office here. And then specifically related to automation, we'll take a look at how we can help from a scheduling dispatching perspective. Paired with that scheduling and dispatching is recurring routes, as well as other things like automation around contracts, moving into invoices and payment automation. And then the last couple pieces here would be, automated notifications, whether that's notifications internally to your team or externally for your customers. And then lastly, how the office can get different insights, and we'll dig into some of that. So let's take a look at the Zuper product. So here I want to introduce you to our dispatch board. And one thing about Zuper is the platform is very customizable and flexible to cater to your business. And as we look into this, one of the things that I want to highlight here with automation is the Zuper platform knows a number of different things about your employees. So things like available capacity, standard working hours, and then skill-based routing in addition to territory-based routing. And so all of that paired together, Zuper knows when you create work and that work is brought into the system, pushed from, in Gold Medal's case, from HubSpot, your CRM, Zuper has the ability to automatically find the right person with the right skill set, who has the right materials in the right location. So that would be the first piece I wanted to introduce you to. Now, in addition to this, we look at route optimization. So route optimization not only can be set up to take a number and collect a number of different jobs or service appointments and put those into a field technician's queue and ultimately route those automatically in an efficient manner. And then on top of that, we realize with your business, these services are happening on a recurring basis. And so not only do we have the ability to set those jobs as recurring jobs, we can also set those recurring routes. So the core value driver here is reduced time and more efficiency around how you're routing, how you're scheduling and maximizing your time around this piece. And then lastly here, just tying it all together, jump over to a job. And what I want to call your attention to is down here at the bottom, this job costing section or profitability tracking. So we also have the ability to automate things like, what was your margin at a job level? What were your costs? Or to help automate things like payroll. And so what Zuper can do is it can capture the time spent, integrate with your payroll and accounting tools, and make that whole process that for a lot of folks is really manual, something that's really easy to manage. And then lastly here, for everything you do, the entire platform is reportable. So everything that's done, you have all of these great reports that you can leverage. And again, just driving back to understanding where the business is at, and helping you grow. So that's the first piece I wanted to introduce you to, and we'll head back to the presentation here and turn it back over to Micah. And
Perfect. Thank you.
the whole team, yeah.
So just quickly touching on kind of the real world impacts of some of that automation, right, for in our use case. So we went from invoicing once a month for the bulk of our customers to now the ability to do a daily invoicing as customers sign up with based on their contract sign up date or their job date. So we have a daily cash flow, which is very helpful in maintaining the health of our business. We also have visibility to the daily job checklists, we have daily visibility to the job checklists that are being filled out by the technicians on site. One of the things that we were having issues with in the past was chemical usage not being recorded correctly. And we weren't able to catch it really until we were aggregating things at the end of the month. Now that we can monitor this throughout the month, to Nick's example of some of the reporting in there, we're able to catch these things and retrain technicians if they're not reporting it correctly, so that we don't compound the issue over time. It allows us to undo or stop doing adjustments to our invoicing process. We're also getting notifications now of overdue unbilled jobs. That's something that was slipping through the cracks as we scaled. Similarly, we have an automated accounting reconciliation with NetSuite. So we, as I mentioned, built an integration into our accounting system, and now we can do things like when customers submit Stripe payments through the Zuper platform, which Stripe, if you know how it works, they actually aggregate all the customer charges and then pay into your bank account as a business as a bulk transaction. We can automate the reconciliation of that process to make sure that we're accounting for all of our cash flow in the right time. Similarly, our on-the-way customer text reminders are reducing. In our checklist, if a technician shows up to a property and they can't get in, they have to say unable to access property and go on to the next job. That's a huge waste of time and energy, and we're preventing or will be preventing a lot of that as we roll out this automated functionality from the mobile app so that customers know we're coming, and we can save ourselves the drive if there's an issue. And lastly, we also, because of the native Stripe integration that Zuper has, we're able to support ACH payments now, and start allowing customers to do both ACH and credit card payments for the recurring billing. So that's just a few of the real world impacts that we've seen or are starting to see as we get further along post go live of our journey here.
I love how full featured it is and how the integrations are right there in the program. I mean, it integrates with HubSpot, Zendesk, QuickBooks. I mean, what are some of the other ones that it integrates with, Micah?
Yeah, I can help with that one. One of the main things on this slide that I want you to all take away, we're looking specifically at gold medals requirements. One of the great things about Zuper is we can leverage best practices to set it up in a similar manner, but we understand each of your businesses are unique. And so these items you're seeing up here can be tailored to your requirements. How do you want your business to run? What notifications do you want or not want going out to your customers? And then, to the point around integrations, we have over 60 plus integrations we have out of the box. And one of our big strengths is being able to connect to other applications like payroll tools. We talked about ERP systems like NetSuite, different CRMs, and of course, different payment platforms, Stripe, Square. We also have Zuper Pay now. So it just brings it all into one platform, and we work with you to set it up in the way that you want it to work.
That's awesome.
Thank you. All right, let's jump to the next persona or value driver here. So this one, if you recall from the first slide, that was back office. Now let's look at the technician, right? So we've seen a little bit of this with Nick's demo so far, but really our lens when Gold Medal was again evaluating future state field service management tools and opted to go with Zuper. One of the biggest lens for us is enabling the technicians, because if the technicians do a good job, the customers are happy, customers don't churn, everything else takes care of itself, right? So we really wanted three core principles here to come into play. One, make it easy. Two, make it consistent. And three, make it profitable. Making it easy is something is giving the techs a simple app that guides them throughout their day without a whole bunch of noise. Like the app could log in for myself as an administrator, can have a whole lot of functionality. But for a tech, it needs to be a pretty tight user experience that is easy for them to use so that they are willing to adopt it. Secondly, we wanted to make it consistent. So this comes back to the recurring route management concept. We want the same technicians servicing the same properties every week if possible. The reason there is nobody likes cleaning up after somebody else's mess. Mistakes happen. People forget to do things in their job. And so we want to create this mentality of accountability or ownership, where if I'm the tech who's going to the same property every single day or every single week, I don't want to clean up a mess, right? If I do a good job one week, customer's happy, next week's fine, and I basically get a higher quality of work consistently. Where we run into quality issues is if we're constantly swapping out because the people who are doing the work aren't really being held accountable to it the next week with the customer. So we wanted a consistent tech experience for the customer as well as for the technicians so that they have an ownership mentality of the properties that they go to. And then lastly, we want to make it profitable, right? Everyone's got this is a job. People want to make as much money as they can. And so by using that, and Nick didn't actually click on the optimize route button, but we service the Dallas Fort Worth area primarily, which is a huge geographic area. You can drive hundreds of miles if you're not careful about optimizing your route. And that means fewer pools visited per technician per day. And if you pay by pool, right, it's less money in the technician's pocket. So we wanted to make it so that our routes were as optimized as possible so the technicians could, without sacrificing quality, service as many pools per day as they can to make more money. So those are the three lenses that we were kind of looking through with the technician value driver viewpoint, specifically in the route optimization side of things, because most of this ties to the route side of things. So with that, I'll kick it back over to Nick.
Perfect. Well, let's go take a look at this. With that mobile app technician experience, the goal is to keep it easy. So I will keep it easy and we'll just jump right into that experience now. So what you're looking at here, I'm on my tablet. We're tablets, smartphones, iOS, Android. And ultimately, in making things easy, like Micah was talking about, is you have to have the right tools to be able to know what you're doing, where you're going, and capturing kind of all the details along the way. So within the Zuper application, you have access to those routes. You have access to your whole schedule of what you're doing in what order. And then, like Micah said, we have this, magic optimize button here. And so as things change throughout the day, you can optimize your route based on things that are unknown that come up. And the great part here is this maps that we're looking at here, we're integrated to Google. So we're looking at things like real-time traffic and leveraging that in the background. So where I want to jump to next is I want to jump over to my smartphone here. And so also from keeping things easy standpoint, we just navigated where we need to go. Now we need to know what to do. So I'm in a specific job here. And within that, we can lay out exactly the different tasks you need to complete in that specific order, as well as understand the different, materials or parts that are included. Along with being able to capture expenses along the way, Zuper leverages AI to be able to click a picture of a receipt or invoice and automatically pull those details into the system. So just making logging those much simpler, as well as being able to see the associated assets or equipment you might be servicing within that customer's profile. And then lastly, here we have the ability to generate quotes on the fly in the field. Hey, a customer has something that they want in addition. Great. We can quote that up while we're on site. We can turn our device around, get them to sign and accept that, collect deposits, or send that electronically. And then lastly, here we have that same capability with invoicing, whether that is going to be automated invoicing or something that you need to create on the fly. We give you that ability. And then lastly here, of course, keeping track of all the steps that you go through from capturing different checklists all the way through to completion, capturing signatures. And that's just kind of scratching the surface. So what I'll do here is I'll just navigate back to the presentation and we'll head on to the next one.
So one call out on what was just shown. There's a significant ability to configure permissions based on a user's role in the system. So, for example, we kind of have three primary roles with our organization. One's the administrator, globally can do everything. And we have a back office power user that can do pretty much everything except configure the system or permanently delete things. So they can touch every component. Our field techs are the most limited ones, and we can actually set permissions on the various modules so that when they open the app that Nick just showed, what I see as an administrator is a lot. They see pretty much just routes and jobs or whatever we want to configure for them so that it's a very pared down user experience, so that they don't get kind of overloaded with complexity. So I just wanted to call that out as well. So real world impact for gold medal side. This is less about results we've seen and more about key questions that we're working towards answering, because some of these are hypotheses that we underwent our investment in the Zuper implementation with, as well as our HubSpot rollout and our integrations. And we have partial data, but not complete. So I don't want to definitively say things with this audience, but in general, we're looking to, hey, can we improve our customer satisfaction scores by dedicating technicians and customer service agents? So I should have mentioned at the start that Gold Medal Pools we have three primary service lines: construction, service, and maintenance. Maintenance is a recurring model, right? You want to go back multiple times. For commercial properties, usually multiple times a week. For residential properties, usually once a week in the busy season, and tapered off a little bit in the off season. But we also have our service department, which is more on demand. I mentioned earlier we're getting a lot of freeze calls in the Dallas area right now where people need to winterize before a storm and or fix issues if they didn't winterize and pumps froze and broke and things like that. So we have more one-off jobs that we manage out of Zuper, as well as the recurring model. Our construction business is still managed out of NetSuite. At some point that will be migrated over, but there's just a lot of nuances into how that was built, so we're taking it piecemeal. Secondly, can we achieve higher weekly compensation of hourly technicians via higher pool counts? Critical caveat here: without sacrificing quality of service. If the techs are incentivized to just go for volume and they sacrifice quality, then it defeats the purpose of the tool. So this is one where we're really pushing towards helping the techs make more money, as I mentioned earlier, by just having a more efficient operation, less drive time, etc. Similarly with that, enabling that actually is, can we increase route density to reduce the number of trucks on the road? Insurance costs in the auto industry have gone up pretty precipitously lately, at least in some of our markets. And anything we can do to clump houses together and customers together that allows us to, instead of maybe servicing 10 pools per tech, it's 12 pools per tech, that adds up over the organization per day, sorry. That adds up for the organization to potentially fewer vehicles we have to insure, which is a non-trivial line item in our budget this day and age with insurance costs. And then lastly, can we reduce our recruiting and training costs via reduced technician churn? I mentioned nobody wants to clean up somebody else's mess. The fewer messes we cause because of the ownership mentality means that people are happier, customers are happier, technicians don't churn as much, they make more money, and then we don't have to spend as much time and energy and money recruiting new ones, as well as training them to do something. Similarly, with the Zuper implementation, it's a relatively quick onboarding experience versus our old one. And so those are the lenses we're looking through here, and we're making progress in all of them, but I didn't want to definitively say we've achieved all of this because we haven't yet.
I love how you guys integrated AI into like multiple aspects of this software to accomplish a lot of the redundant, time-sucking things that just eat up the day for pool pros, like just taking a picture of a receipt and having that attribute that as a job cost or as a fee associated with the job is smart. I mean, we've seen that feature with banking where you could take a picture of the check and deposit it into your bank for like the last 10 years. And somebody finally figured out how to implement this for the pool industry. So that's really a big time saver, guys.
Yeah, from an AI perspective, everyone's talking about it and we're doing something about it. So there's a lot more that we are doing in AI and there's a lot more we're bringing in AI. So a lot more to be done in that area, but a ton you can leverage now. And again, the whole point here is to reduce time, make things easy on your team and on your customers. And in this case, give them a simpler, easy to use experience.
100%.
All right. Next slide, please. Perfect. So the last value driver slash persona we want to look at is the customer perspective. Arguably the most important persona because it's the one from which we make money and actually have a viable business. So the key value driver here is service visibility. So I have listed on the screen what are the most common reasons customer call us, as well as an example of what that statement or baseline call may look like. So we get any combination of scheduling inquiries, quote inquiries, billing inquiries, service inquiries, and complaints. There are obviously other ones, other categories I'm not calling out here. We get 5-star review notifications when customers are really happy. We get spam, frankly, that we filter out a lot. There's a number of other lists, but these are combined together. These are probably 95% of the calls and or emails that we get from customers. And if you notice, there's really a trend: inquiry, 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 inquiry about some component of the business. So what this tells us, and what we knew as an organization, was we're not doing a good job, or we're not doing a good enough job of proactively informing the customer of, or providing the customer with the information they need of the service we're providing, of the service we just provided, of what a quote might entail, why something is needed. And really, we needed to address this because the pool service and maintenance industry is a relatively, I don't want to offend anyone here, it's a relatively undifferentiated and unsticky market, right? People, for the most part, have it's a low switching cost. They can, if they're unhappy, they can Google, they can find somebody and they can switch. So we want to make it so that people don't have a reason to go search for a competitor. We have to provide a high quality service. We have to make it so it's in the back of people's minds. They're not constantly thinking about their pool. They just know it's taken care of. We want to build that trust, make something a sticky customer, make our product a sticky product in a relatively undifferentiated market. And so to do that, one of the things we wanted to talk about was addressing the proof of work or the service visibility, because that's the number one thing that people are often out at work and they're not home when people service the pool. And if they don't trust that if pools are maintained well, right, you don't really notice pool color changing. You don't notice leaves in the pool. Like you shouldn't notice the work, but they want to know that it's going on. And so having, like, we'll talk about the customer portal here and the job cards that get sent out with the after visit reports, as well as just general notifications to customers, letting them know that yes, work is being done. We're on it. Here's evidence of it. Like, we're taking the pictures, we're doing a good job, and that people understand the value of the service that's being provided, and we become sticky. And that's what we really want. We want to provide a good service at a reasonable price and use the tool like Zuper or a combination of Zuper and our enterprise architecture to meet that need so that we become sticky. Nick?
So let's go take a look at some of that. I want to just jump right into visualizing that. So let's go over and take a look. One of the things that Mike had mentioned is that proof of work. And so what you're seeing here is something that is very flexible to be configured with your brand identity, your layout, the details you want to share. And in this case, it's taking the technician taking a picture of the proof of work in the mobile app. And then that picture, along with the different, services performed and other notes to the customer, as well as the ability to rate, are all automatically pulled into this document that can either be texted out or emailed out. And you don't have to go and prepare this. It's simply you capture it, and Zuper does the work of generating this automatically. So it's a really nice customer experience that doesn't take any additional work to generate this out. One other touch point we have too is our customer portal. And I'm just jumping back to the tablet experience here. We understand your customers are most likely on their tablet or their smartphone. So our customer portal here is mobile friendly. And this is also configurable. If there's items on here you don't want your customers having visibility, no problem. We can configure it that way. But with the customer portal, we can give visibility to a number of different things. Open invoices, quotes that have been approved or new quotes, as well as being able to jump in and allow them to make requests, see where those requests are at, say a request for quote on new service, as well as getting visibility to all of the work that's happened or coming up in the future. And then lastly here, we do have the ability to allow them to see all of the assets under management. And what this can be utilized for is if there is an opportunity for an upsell on new material or equipment, this is one area that can be leveraged. So these are a couple of the items we have from a customer experience perspective, but one big one that I'll say is the notifications. Within Zuper, we can have a notification for any trigger or event that happens in the platform. That could be sent out as a text or an email. So like Micah referenced earlier, those on my way notifications, a nice picture of who's showing up, when they're going to be there. And then of course, in cases, the ability to reschedule or connect with that customer, have them connect with you if something has come up. So that's just a little taste of some of what we're doing from a customer facing perspective.
And I'll give you an example of merging two concepts together that Nick just showed that we've used. So to the point of keeping the pool in the back of people's minds and not at the forefront, most of the service requests for part maintenance or asset management we want coming from the maintenance technicians. So if folks are going to clean a pool, they're checking on the filters, they're checking on the pumps, and if they find an issue, as they're filling out their job checklist, we actually have a section of it that, to Nick's point about automating on any trigger, there's a yes no question. Hey, is follow-up service required? If they click yes, it provides them a whole bunch of additional options around, okay, what part needs or what asset needs work? What's the core issue? Take a few photos. And when they finish their job and they close out the job, behind the scenes, we have an automation that'll automatically create a service request on behalf of that customer that our back office, who's managing the service department, can look through, and we can assign a priority, right? If it's a pump down, it's an urgent thing that needs to be taken care of. But if it's hey, parts degrading, we need a replacement ordered and come and installed at some point soon, but not an immediate need, we can have a lower priority. We can automatically convert that to a quote. There's a button that you click that says convert this service request to a quote. Customer gets it, can approve, and then you can click another button that says convert to job. And then you could assign that job to a technician, and the technician can go out and actually service that part. So it's a flow we've created where the customer is not the one having to submit the service request, but the maintenance technician is the one who identifies it and submits it on the customer's behalf as part of their job workflow already, without having to go into a separate module and create a service request. So just wanted to call that out because Nick mentioned about the automations and workflows. There's a lot of configurability that we have used extensively. So let's talk some real world impact. Now, the metrics here actually are real and they're composite. I wouldn't attribute them entirely to Zuper. That wouldn't be fair. But a significant chunk of these is enabled because of Zuper and their integrations to other tools that we use. So when I first came on to Gold Medal, leading the IT department, I said, guys, stop trying to make one system solve all of your problems. There's no silver bullet in this world. So we need to think about this architectural technology ecosystem together as a unit and let one tool solve a job that it is designed for, and let another one solve or serve its purpose that it's designed for. And then we can unify the systems together. So our CRM system is HubSpot. We want all our core source of truth, anything that a customer gets into our ecosystem through HubSpot. We want our field management system to be Zuper, so actually doing the work. and we want our ERP accounting system, NetSuite, to be the financial system of record for our organization. That mostly has to do with the fact that we already had it. I didn't want to do a migration of that. There are other options out there, but that was an existing solution. And then we rolled out, as I mentioned, a analytics component that could kind of tick and tie across, right? Together, that unit, which would not be possible without any one of the three legs of that stool. We went from when we first rolled out HubSpot, for example, which was in the middle of our Zuper project, we were averaging 200 new service technician, or sorry, 200 customer service tickets per day. That was peak season. It was right around June 17th is what it was. So super hot, peak season, middle of rolling a new system, and there's a bit of a backlog that we pulled on from our old process. We have now got that down to less than 50 per day. And actually, of that 50, there's probably about 10 that are spam that just go or service system tickets that go in of just like, hey, your spam filter is sending a notification. It is off season, so we acknowledge that it's lower than peak season. But even if you doubled that number, say we're now in June peak season, it's half of what we were seeing before. We've also gotten a 95%, it's actually 97% reduction in complaint volume, mostly because of those things I talked about, which is making the technicians have an ownership mentality. So they want to do good work because if they mess up, they're the ones cleaning up the mess the next week. That's the biggest. Just do the work we say we're going to do. And the number two is show proof of it. And so that's where the accountability of the job cards, the customer portal, the sending all that stuff out is a forcing mechanism where the customer now believes the work is occurring so they don't have to call in, which doesn't backlog our call center. So they're not going to call in again because they were on hold, something like that. It's a compounding issue. And as a result, we're averaging with our pool count, which is pretty sizable, we're averaging 5 complaints last month, I think it was, which is way down from what it was. We obviously would love that to be 0, but that's not a realistic world that we're in. And then we've also more than doubled as a result of that our average customer tenure. This has been a huge focus of us, right? Around wanting to make the customer experience better, make our pricing and value proposition align so that people are sticking around pretty much until they sell their home and move out of a service area that we don't service. If we can achieve that, then we've done our job to the extreme, and Zuper is definitely helping us along the way in improving the customer experience here. Next slide, please. Unless there's something else somebody wants to say on this one.
No, I don't have anything to say about this. I mean, I've played with the software extensively before we ever had this webinar. And that's why, I know there's a lot of amazing stuff under the hood. One of the things that I like the best that you showed real quick was the ability to get a review when you're sending out that notification. I mean, I know a lot of pool guys always ask, how do I get reviews? How can I get more reviews? How do I get positive reviews? That's a great way to do it. I mean, as soon as you send off the notification, you're able to get a review. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's actually something we've been we had not yet implemented ourselves. It's been on the roadmap because we have got bigger fish to fry first as we roll this out. You can't try to do a major platform all at once. You kind of have to do iterative releases of things. Otherwise, you just get stuck in a letting perfect get in the way of good enough. But so we actually do that process offline right now. But our intention is once we have all the higher priority things taken care of, we will be utilizing that capability, mostly because it has to do, it helps significantly with, if folks aren't familiar with local LSAs, local service ads on Google, that's almost entirely dependent upon two things: the budget you spend and the reviews you have on Google. So the more you get of those high 5-star reviews, the better off your ad spend efficiency will be, more customers you'll get. And a lot of that just has to do with making it as easy as possible to get reviews when you provide a quality service. So I'm taking quality service as table stakes. Everyone should do a good job. And then you want to get proof of that from the customer, and then everything else kind of gets more efficient.
And then one thing just to echo here, Mike was talking about, his approach and tech stack. Zuper is a best in breed model, meaning that the accounting tool you have today, we have the ability to integrate with that. You don't have to change that tool. the CRM of choice, if you choose to have a CRM, you can plug that in their case, HubSpot. And so we want to be the best in our space. Like you have to be the best at, being a business owner or being an ops manager, and you want to have the best folks in the field. So we take that same approach, being able to integrate with that tech stack.
Thank you. All right, I think we have one more slide of best practices, and then I think it's Q&A, right?
Yep, you got it.
Joe, I think this one's your slide, right?
Oh, okay. So some of the best practices here for upgrading your pool server software, and we did have a question come in that we're going to cover in a minute during the QA. But one of the best practices is a smooth transition is going to depend on getting your service techs to buy in to using a new software. All right. You ever hear that saying it's tough to teach an old dog new tricks? Well, that's what we got to do if we want to become more profitable and we want to streamline our businesses. We got to get buy-in from those techs who are actually going to be using any platform out in the field. And the office staff, that goes double for them. I mean, the people that actually have to put in the data and set appointments for you and respond to customer service complaints. I mean, getting them to buy in and getting them to adjust first is going to kind of matriculate down to everybody else who may have hands-on with the software. And another thing is, if you're going to migrate out of a previous software, I know a lot of you guys may be using something like from one of the other major players out in the industry, but you want to focus on migrating active customers. I mean, you don't have to migrate all of your legacy data from 10, 15. I've been in business for 20 years. How do I get all those customers over? I mean, we really want to just migrate over those active customers, the active SKUs, those active things that you're using so that you can avoid cluttering up the new system. We ever hear that saying, garbage in, garbage out? Well, if you import a lot of garbage in there, you're going to be importing garbage over to a brand new house, right? So we want to get rid of a lot of that stuff. Highlighting the time savings, yeah, I mean, this software is a major time saver. All right. So for a lot of the things, a lot of those repetitious tasks that you're doing, I mean, especially a lot of these guys that I mean, they're still not even using a software. A lot of people are still using a whiteboard, or they're still using like the old method where you're moving postcards around. I mean, this is going to save you a ton of time. So, I mean, if you want to invest in the training and choose a software that's a best-in-class software, the Zuper software, I mean, they have they put a tremendous amount of attention into training you, getting you to understand how to utilize the software to better effect. They answer any questions that you have about, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? You can put things on their roadmap. You can give them ideas on ways to improve the software, and they're actually going to use those ideas when they come together in their Monday morning meetings and they talk about, hey, how can we move the ball and offer our customers better service? They're going to take those kind of suggestions into consideration. And you want to choose a software that's going to be able to connect with a variety of different platforms that you use. I mean, a lot of people, they're so concerned about, hey, can my software play with this software I'm using or that software I'm using? And a lot of these other softwares, these pool softwares out there, they're like what I call technology islands, all right? They don't play nicely with other softwares. One thing I love about Zuper, and I think you would too if you gave it a test drive, is the ability to integrate with a lot of off-the-shelf tech products that we're already using. All right. So yeah, can it integrate with your CRM system? That's a big one. That's a big, big caveat hanging out for a while. A lot of pool companies just don't want to switch is because they know that it's going to be a chore and a bear migrating their data over and getting it to play nicely with all the different softwares they're using. That's a big time saver with Zuper, is that they've already figured out a lot of that. So next slide. So now we're going to open it up to Q&A. And I had a question here from one of our attendees for Nick. This person has questions regarding migration. They said, all right, the software that I'm using is raising my fee by up to $4 per pool, and I want to migrate out. How difficult would it be to migrate my data to Zuper?
Yeah, great question. Just to manage expectations, data migration is probably the most challenging thing that you'll go through in a Zuper implementation or any implementation really. But we try to make it easy on you. So our implementation team is all in-house and we're full service. So the expectation we look of you is to get that data out of your old system. We need to get that data formatted together. We work with you on that. And then it's on us to get it into the Zuper platform. So those are just some of the steps. Every scenario is different. Everyone's data is different. So it all comes down to formatting, organization, and then allowing our team to get it into the platform.
I'll add a tiny note to that too. The answer really depends on the volume you're dealing with as well. And if you're trying to do any standardization at the same time. So for example, we had a really dirty old environment and we didn't have any SKU regularity. So we tried to roll out a new SKU master as part of this. So we had to go through a big process of mapping all of our old stuff into our new architecture. And then we also have so many pools that we needed to plan for a weekend cutover versus something like smaller pools you can do in the middle of the week, in the evening type of a thing as the business signs off. And we actually initially tried to just do file exports and imports, which works up until a certain volume. But if you have too many records that you need to QA right afterwards, you're going to run into time constraints. So we actually built a custom, because Zuper has a really robust API. We built a custom API sync that would run from Jobber, which is our old system, every night, and it would load into the staging environment of Zuper, and then I could run analysis of in our analytics layer of okay, what dropped off, what's not mapping correctly, et cetera. That's about as advanced as an approach as you're going to get, and we only needed it because we had such a high volume. Most people are going to have a simpler time because they're not trying to do SKU standardization, so it's kind of a like for like migration, and they're also going to have a volume that can work in more of a manual approach versus needing something that's automated every single day to go through all the validations that we did.
Sure. So you touched base on Jobber a minute ago. Here's a question for you from Liliana. She wants to know, how does Zuper compare to other softwares in the market like Jobber, Poolbrain, or Skimmer?
Nick, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that just at where our product fits into the space. So, options like Jobber or Skimmer, you're typically going to see those are more rigid. And when I say rigid, they're fairly good solutions. However, there's not as much flexibility. And what I mentioned before in kind of all of these different demos we looked at is the ability to customize and configure the platform to your business requirements. So the key piece of differentiation is true flexibility. And then beyond that, it's our willingness and ability to integrate with other products. And then also, fit in that best in breed model, connecting to those tools as part of that. So that's the high level value, I would say, differentiator.
Sure. We had another question in here about QuickBooks Enterprise compatibility.
Yeah.
Can you maybe answer that question for us?
Yeah, happy to. We see this a lot, and I'm sure you asked the question because you're probably quite frustrated in the lack of your ability to have been able to connect your platforms to QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop. The best practice here is if you have QuickBooks Desktop 2022 or newer, you do have options with Zuper to do data connections. Now, due to a limitation of that QuickBooks Desktop product, as I'm sure that any of you using that, they've been trying to get you to switch to QuickBooks Online. We get there's different capability in desktop that you like. We do have options to do a semi-automated data sync process because they don't have APIs, so it's a limitation of their system. And then we also have other, methods in being able to get information across. So it would be good to book some time and dig into what version you have and be able to address what we can connect to that platform. But the short answer here is yes, we do have the ability to get information from Zuper into QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise.
We had a follow-up question from Chad. He asked that question about QuickBooks Enterprise. He also wants to know about inventory tracking.
Yeah. So from a Zuper perspective, we have inventory tracking. So you can have your master inventories, you can have your costs, you can have your markups, as well as you can track your inventory availability across multiple warehouses. Those warehouses are typically a physical warehouse, on site at a customer location, or truck stock for your technicians. And then in addition to that, we have different purchasing triggers. So thresholds that once crossed will send automated notifications to that purchasing team to replenish stock. And then beyond that, Zuper is an inventory consumption tool. And in cases where you have an ERP or accounting system in place, integration to be able to trigger things like parts requisitions to reorder parts, as well as being able to account for all of the inventory transactions.
Couple more questions. One was the big elephant in the room. What's the pricing? How much does it cost?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I could give you a really easy answer, but it depends on so many different things. Depends on the size of your team, so number of users. It depends on the applications you need to integrate with. Would you like to use the customer portal or not? So the best way to get specific pricing, I've thrown in the chat here a link to book a demo, and within that first session, we will deliver you pricing. And again, it's different. It's different for a large scale enterprise business like Gold Medal than, someone who has a 10-person team. So it's not a one size fits all, but we would be more than happy to work with you on that if you use that link in there, chat to book some time with us.
Sure. We had one more question from Blake Redman. He wanted to know about route optimization. And yeah, it does use route optimization. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a breakdown about how that works.
Yeah, happy to. So we took a look at that earlier, and with route optimization, there's so much that can be configured in that. What factors do you want to set up your Zuper to take into account? I highlighted a few like, we're overlaid on Google where we're seeing real-time traffic. We can optimize for shortest distance traveled to optimize for fuel burn. We can optimize for, least amount of time spent, which allows you to get more work done in a day, which means more money in your pocket. And then other things related to that that can be configured to optimize that route automatically based on how we set it up. So a ton of options to make that optimization work perfect for your business.
And just for point of context, we chose to optimize by default all of our routes based on drive time. We want our techs driving as little as possible so that they can, to the point about potentially making more money for themselves, if they can hit more pools in a day because of that. And if we, in some cases, we do pay by pool, especially in the commercial side. If they can hit more in a day, again, quality notwithstanding, because that's a big caveat in our mentality, they're better off optimizing for drive time.
Another question was, is Zuper suitable for SMBs or is it just enterprise, uh, larger companies that this product's suited for?
Yeah, it's a great question. Zuper works with companies that, are 10 employees all the way up to a few thousand employees. And given that I talked about the flexibility, it can be set up for a small business very differently than it can be set up for a large enterprise business. But the great part about it is flexibility to scale your business. So who you are today is going to be different next week, next month, 6 months from now, a year from now. So the short answer is yes. Typically, we kind of see that entry point, around the 8 user amount is kind of what we see in the smaller side of things. But we'd begin happy to work with you and see if it's a good fit for you.
I'll actually say too that out of the box, I think it is very well designed for smaller, medium businesses. I think inherently with the large organizations like ourselves who've had some acquisitions and things like that, we just have a significant number of weird scenarios that need to be handled, or a lot of existing systems we need to integrate with. Most companies don't need to do that stuff. So we've had to work through, like you're basically leaning on the work of larger organizations like ourselves to handle all the scenarios you can think of, such that a smaller company, it's pretty turnkey, based on what I've seen.
Had another question here from Anthony Romero. Would you be able to use Google Maps in the app itself, or would you have to switch over to Google Maps or Apple Maps?
Yeah, great question. We get that a lot of other applications redirect you. With Zuper, you have the option to redirect to your map of choice, but we actually have our map inside the app without having to redirect. So earlier, when I showed the iPad for the technician experience, that was Google Maps inside of Zuper without having to leave the mobile app. It was step-by-step directions on where you're going, how long it's going to take. So short answer here is we do not have to redirect to another application, but you have the option to if you prefer something else.
And if you turn it on as a supervisor, you can also see within the app on Google Maps where the technicians are at any given time during their workday. So you can see if they're at a job site or on their way to one.
So I don't think we have any more questions here. Does anybody else have another
I
question?
did see one in there. It was a question on do we support franchise businesses?
Oh,
And short answer to that is yes. We work with, like I said before, small business all the way up to enterprise, and we do work with a number of different franchise businesses. So yeah, we understand there's a lot of complexity in that space, and we'd be happy to work with you on that. And we've done that many times before.
great. Well, one last person said, I don't see the link for the demo. If you don't see the link in the chat, the link to the demo in the chat, rest assured we're going to be emailing all of the attendees after the webinar, so we'll shoot you the link to the demo in the email as well. And right up on the screen right there, you could see zuper.co/demo. So that real short link is how you hop on and get a demo going.
I saw the question pop up too that I'll answer. There's offline mode. So when you start your day, if you're going to go to a place where has no cell signal or no Wi-Fi, you can basically cache on your phone your jobs and routes for the day. So you can complete it in offline mode, and then when you get back to cell or Wi-Fi, it'll sync. Similarly, you can also just work in the app if, like, we had a guy who drove into a parking garage and he had forgotten of a commercial property and had forgotten to turn on his offline mode at the start of the day. He just asked to hop on the Wi-Fi really quickly. What we had it saved actually from a previous visit, that then allowed him to sync it, turn on offline mode, and then he just hopped off the Wi-Fi and went about his day. So you don't need cell or Wi-Fi, but there is an offline mode that I highly recommend everyone turn on. It's a configuration. You just say enable offline mode, and then have everyone start their day by just caching it automatically.
Great. So now that we're at the end of our webinar here, I'd like to thank all of you for sticking around for the end of this. Appreciate you guys. If you would fill out a short survey for Zuper after the webinar is over, that'll get you entered into our door prize, and you're going to win a $100 Amazon gift card. We're going to pick one name out of the hat, and yeah, Zuper will get that over to you guys. Thanks, guys, for putting that door prize up for our attendees today.
I want to say thank you to everyone for giving us the opportunity to talk through our story, and happy to be on and support Zuper and pool marketing here.
Micah, thank you for being a great customer, and thanks for the pool marketing team for hosting Zuper, and thank all of you for joining, and look forward to seeing you in a demo and we can work on your specific requirements.
Well, thank you guys for attending our first webinar here with Pool Magazine. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us. I'm gonna be sending this recording of the webinar out to everybody. So if you want to watch it again, you can feel free to do so. All right. So thank you all for showing up, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.